Julie, thanks so much for being a part of the program today.
Thanks for having me on.
It is my pleasure as always. And you're writing at Life Zet today with a column about organic food and why parents and really just grown-ups, people who buy food, should not freak out or feel guilty if they don't buy everything organic, right?
Right. Yeah, that was the substance of the piece.
Okay, and you've talked about the food babe before. She makes a guest appearance in your column because she is certainly not the only one, but sort of a face of this movement that shames people.
Yeah.
If they don't eat organic, right? You are a less than good mom or a less than good dad. You're feeding your kids swill. They're going to grow up to be these processed food loving
junkies,
junk food junkies, and it's all going to be your fault.
That's right. That's the message she gives to most moms and dads, and she's got a lot of followers. She calls them the Food Babe Army. And unfortunately, she has a lot of followers, and they do what she says. And her main message is buy the most expensive food out there. And she often uses extremely dodgy science to back up her claims. But she's a powerhouse out there. She's gotten a lot of attention. She's a regular on morning TV shows like Good Morning America and other shows, and shows that are really geared towards women. Which is unfortunate. So it's important. Some other writers have taken her on, but again, I think she is exactly. She sort of encompasses to me what's bad with the food commentary movement. These aren't just food activists or food nannies. These are people who have an opinion on food and really manage to spread a lot of misinformation out there, I think to the detriment of people's health.
So we interviewed Arthur C. Brooks, the head of the American Enterprise Institute, recently. He's got a new book, The Conservative Heart.
Sure.
Which is sort of a play on The Conservative Mind by Russell Kirk, which Brooks pointed out, in the 50s, the chief knock against Republicans or conservatives said they were stupid. So Russell Kirk wanted to write a book that would show, look, we're not stupid. There's an intellectual tradition in conservatism. Today, Arthur C. Brooks says the biggest problem is that conservatives are seen as uncaring.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to write this book that both highlights the small c conservative caring for the community and society that comes with the free market and free enterprise, but also kind of wanted to talk about how we talk about these things. And it struck me as I was reading your piece, Julie, that I think Arthur C. Brooks would really like your piece. If he hasn't already read it, I would recommend that he do, because this is a message to Republicans, Democrats, people who are fed up with Washington, D.C. It's a very non-political, small c conservative message of, listen, you're still responsible for your kids' diet and your diet. And you know what? You can make good decisions.
Yeah.
Right? You can make good decisions, and you don't have to freak out. It takes on the culture of alarmism while empowering parents as opposed to shaming them. And I really, really liked that.
Oh, thanks. And goodness, it's a huge compliment because I think that conservatives often do miss opportunities. I think the expansion of the school lunch program, I think, the tentacles of the government growing into all of our food decisions and our children's food decisions. I think that these are issues that really make people nervous. And I think they speak to non-conservatives. I think that people who are, might not necessarily always vote for the conservative candidate or, they're independents. I think this stuff really resonates with them. And I know that you've commented on this a number of times. I know that Jim Garrity has talked about this, about how food and sort of these lifestyle decisions, parenting, Lenore Skenazy talking about the criminalization of parenting, of common heretofore normal parenting practices. This resonates with people, and it becomes non-political. It becomes a very basic freedom issue. And again, I think that a lot of these food activists, which do tend to be sort of left of center, a lot of these activists, they want more regulations, they want more control, they want certain things taken out of the marketplace, they want fewer choices, limiting people's choices. I mean, this is much more left-wing sort of concepts, and so I think a lot of these food nannies tend to shame people, make moms feel bad, and again, it's a way of controlling those choices. The food babe is very good at this. She says, if you love your kid, you wouldn't even consider these other choices. So it's a way of controlling people's choices without actually taking them away or getting behind a regulation. It's sort of psychologically telling them that you only have a few choices. Generally, they're the more expensive choices, or they're the items that I'm advertising on my website. And again, that's
what? Oh, come on.
No. So again, this is a way of controlling people, and she's very good at it. But again, I think that this resonates with all people all along the political spectrum.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that it does resonate with people along the political spectrum because, look, first of all, I think that as the left has started attacking its own, more people on the left are getting fed up with this nonsense and this bullying, right?
Yeah.
Just by the very nature of the attacks, it's become a much more nonpartisan issue because it's not always the conservatives being attacked right now.
Right.
The battle to be the most pure progressive possible. That's a lot of P's. It's taking place on the left, and if you don't have the right brand of organic quinoa, right, or maybe your heirloom tomatoes, don't you know?
Yeah.
Those are determinate tomatoes. The better tomatoes are indeterminate tomatoes. I mean, it's just getting silly and ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
And so to tap into that, as you do, and you write about what the science babe, right, is another a person who's taking on the food babe. We might have a food babe army, but we also, I think, have a growing army of parents who simply want the tools. Look, they still want advice. No, parenting it's a learning process throughout the entirety of raising kids. But they don't want the scolding. They certainly don't want the shaming.
Yeah.
Right? They want advice. They want some tips.
Yeah.
Some help. They want to smile. And we're all in this together, as opposed to you bad people.
Yeah, I think
here's how you can be good. Just follow me.
I think more than it's interesting. I think that people who believe in people having the choices in the marketplace and letting the market work and not limiting people's choices or freaking them out about things. I mean, I think those people also are sort of reticent to get involved in any kind of army or like movement. And so sort of the opposite, I think, of the food babe army is people who are just sort of tired of this stuff, tired of always feeling made to feel guilty about their choices, or that they're going to die in 10 minutes after eating a bag of Doritos, or whatever it is. I think sort of the opposite of the food babe army is this push to just leave me alone, just get out of my face and stop suggesting that everything is a silent killer. And that to me is what sort of these science defenders like the science babe, and there's a great writer, I always say her name wrong. I think it's Coven Senapathy. She writes a lot about biotech, and there's some fantastic farmer bloggers out there. And there's one, Nurse Loves Farmer. She's a nurse. Her husband's a farmer, and she blogs and she has great information out there. And again, I think these writers, they don't just push back, but they sort of reassure people that you don't have to obsess about every bite you take and everything every item you've chosen for your children to eat. I mean, it's not actually a life and death decision, many of these things. So there's a lot of great information out there. And I think it's really important that we give people resources besides the food babe and sort of these other alarmists.
I agree. All right, now listen, while we've got you here, I've got to ask you, because in your email that you send before every show, we talk about the various things you're reading about. You said to me, I have to talk about the woman who yelled at this child, and I didn't know what you were talking
woman.
about. And so I
You didn't know?
The awesome woman. So, no, I hadn't seen this story. And so this was in Maine. Is that right?
Yeah.
Maine.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Family comes. So a family goes out to breakfast. There's like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old child. Parents order pancakes. The owner of the restaurant says the parents then didn't serve the kid the pancakes, so the kid starts yelling. Eventually the owner, says, "Could you please quiet your baby down?" Doesn't happen. So finally the owner yells at the kid to be quiet. And apparently the family leaves. And so you say this awesome woman, are you pro yelling at the strange kid?
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And you are crazy if you disagree with this woman. That child screamed for 40 minutes. Now, listen, I'm not blaming the child. The child is 2 years old or whatever. I mean, kids do this stuff. The idea that the parents, let me tell you, I have 3 kids. If my kids start yelling, within 30 seconds, I'm out the door. They are going to have their temper tantrum out of the view and earshot of everybody around, because those people are also paying customers, and they shouldn't have to endure a child's temper tantrum. And so it just astounds me. First of all, let's be clear here. The restaurant owner is getting a lot of hate online for yelling at this child, and a lot of criticism. And she's sort of come out and said she hasn't apologized. God bless her. She hasn't apologized, but she said, "Look, I care about my other patrons." She's absolutely right. She is.
But here's the thing. This is. We're disagreeing, Julie. This so rarely happens.
You can't possibly disagree with me on this. There's no way.
The yelling at the 2-year-old. Why yell at the 2-year-old? Why not yell at the adults who actually have the power to take that 2-year-old out of the restaurant?
Sure. Yeah.
Why do you yell at the 2-year-old? No, I firmly agree that perhaps yelling was warranted, but not at the 2-year-old. That doesn't fix the situation.
Maybe 40 minutes of a child yelling while you're trying to crank out orders and you're worried about your other customers. She might have, sure, maybe she should have yelled at the parents. Maybe she shouldn't have directed her anger at the child. I just am amazed that people are piling heaps of criticism on this restaurant owner when parents thought it was perfectly acceptable to allow their child to scream for 40 minutes. And apparently part of this was the pancake was out of reach of the child. Of course the child is going to scream. I just think that people, I just don't understand modern parenting. I don't understand the idea. 5 minutes to me is 2 minutes is too long. I don't understand how it's now acceptable to let your child scream for 40 minutes. And fine, maybe she should have directed her ire at the parents. But I would probably snap too if I had to listen to a child screaming for 40 minutes.
I just think
there go my babysitting jobs.
That's a
Dang.
Eat your dinner, or we're going to have Julie come over and babysit.
Yeah.
I like Pete's dad. Anyway, so I don't know who these parents are, but first of all, I would say I don't know that that's actually modern parenting. I certainly haven't seen a lot of this where the kid flips out for 40 minutes or so. But it just seems to me, just as one of my priorities, Julie, as a dad, is that things not be noisy. Right? Because things always start at about 60 decibels, and then everybody's giggling and they're having fun, and then it gets up to about 70 decibels, and they're having so much fun, and then all of a sudden it's 90 decibels, and there's hair pulling, and there's, it's bad. So I like to keep things around 65 decibels or so. Right. And so I understand. This is poor parenting. As you say, the parent should have taken that kid out of there, apologized, paid the bill. You get outside. What was going on? Or maybe, I don't know, you look up from whatever it is you're doing. Maybe you look up from your smartphone and say, "Oh, Billy can't reach his pancake." And then problem solved.
Parenting's hard.
But the owner of the restaurant could also have. The owner of the restaurant also could have said, when she noticed this, 5 minutes in, kid can't reach the pancake. No. You know what? No. As the owner of the restaurant, who has all these other tables to consider.
Yeah.
If she sees that something is amiss, and she can fix it by simply scooching over a plate, scooch over the damn plate.
Yeah, fine, but it's not her. It's not her job. It's really not the restaurant. I mean, that's like the school lunch lady.
It is her job as the restaurant owner not to let this escalate to 40 minutes.
Okay.
If you're fed up after 5-10 minutes, go talk to the table.
Yeah.
Go talk to the parents.
Believe
say, listen,
this woman
you
was,
have to do something about your child, and you have to leave.
I believe this woman was working the line. I think she was cranking out orders. I don't think she had time to scurry over to clueless parents and tell them to take care of their child. I think she was probably hoping that this would all end. Perhaps a waitress could have gone over. I mean, there's a million things that could have been done, but I really don't think that this woman deserves online hate and criticism, and I certainly don't think she needs to apologize to these parents. I just think this needs to be, I just think this needs to be a lesson to parents. And you say that this isn't happening. Well, there's enough online love for the parents and defensiveness of these parents that certainly there's a group of people who think this snowflake didn't deserve to be yelled at. I mean, maybe this, I'm not in favor of, touching another child or yelling at another child, but I do sort of pardon people for losing it a little bit after listening to a child scream in a restaurant for 40 minutes. It's just so contrary to how I parent. And it's contrary. Frankly, I don't think these things are up for debate. I mean, I just think that and I know you don't either. I think that we both agree that when your child starts crying and carrying on and having a temper tantrum, you take them outside. But I just think these are the sorts of things that happen when you let your child carry on like that. I think it's irresponsible parenting, and it's not being a good citizen. Anyway.
All right. Well, speaking of carrying on, we are carrying on here, so we've got to start wrapping things up. I just think that I don't think there are any heroes in that story. I think that's a series of poor decisions. I feel bad for the 2-year-old because he's really the only one who's not old enough to know better.
We can agree on that.
So that. All right. There we go. All right, Julie, listen, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks
it's kind of fun
me.
when we disagree.
It's not
and
fun.
We'll talk to you again very soon. Julie Gunlock, you can find her at iwf.org.